everyone. It's February 9th, and tonight on the Team of Rivals podcast, we'll close out this week's bonus episodes with a Cardinals-only hour. Ron and special guest Chris Lollis of Cardinals Nation 24/7 will take questions about their beloved Redbirds only days before they head south to Jupiter. Spring training expectations, roster moves, and a few curveballs all lie ahead. The Team of Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And a high drive into left. Back towards the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the Cardinals world champion for 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everybody. Happy Friday, guys. It is, and guess what? It's the last Friday before spring training officially starts. So how's everybody's week been? I've been looking forward to this night for several reasons. But guys, how you been doing? We haven't talked for like 72 hours.
I know it. And we are in the middle of, I don't know about you, Elliot, but here in the Chicagoland area, we are in day 7 of what is projected to be 9 measurable snowfall. We got over 80 inches here last night, and it's supposed to start up again in about 2 hours. So it's been an interesting week in the Chicago area. Elliot?
Yeah, we got about 6 inches between last night and this morning. So not too bad, but that 6 inches on top of the 6 inches that we already had. So it's it's piled up. But the kid likes it. We're going to go sledding tomorrow and have a nice weekend.
Outstanding. Hey, listen, before we get into it, just to remind everybody, teamofrivalspodcast.com. And if you want to interact with Elliot on the Twitters, you can reach him at
TOR_Elliot.
Very nice. Ron, why don't you introduce our guest?
All right, guys. Well, I've been looking forward to this for a while now. Chris Lollis from Cardinals Nation 24/7, the Cardinals Nation Facebook group, is joining us tonight, and we're going to answer some questions regarding our Cardinals as they head into spring training. And Chris, I don't know if you've ever had Cubs fans feed you questions like this before. This may be a first for you. It's not for me because Pete and I have been doing this for a better part of a decade, right? 16 years or so we've been asking each other questions about our team, but never in such a formal atmosphere. But before we get into any of that, Chris, thank you so much for taking time on a Friday to join us. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? And I particularly want to know what motivated you to start the Facebook page and the Facebook group, and how did you get that to grow so quickly?
Well, quick recap on me. I'm 37 years old from Rolla, Missouri, kind of small town, Cardinals fan my whole life. Kind of started a Facebook page about 3 years ago, and you get all kinds of news sources, and I just kind of wanted to put it all on one page instead of having to go to 10 or 15 different sources, so started the page that way, but you don't get a whole lot of interaction as far as that. It kind of just depends on what you decide to post. So I kind of started the group as a forum to let all the fans kind of chime in on their thoughts and opinions, and they shared game day picks, and it just kind of blew up from there.
Well, it's a great site. If you follow the Cardinals as closely as I do, I know we've shared that on our Facebook page. I've shared it on my personal page as well. So it is a great resource to go to, and it's a great community. And you actually have do you have any current players on the community, or is it mostly former players? I've seen quite a few names come across.
I think as far as current players, Luke Voigt, I know, is in the group. Former players, we've got Kenny Reitz and Isringhausen, and there's a few minor leaguers too, but some of them chime in, some of them are just quiet, but it's cool that they took the time to join. That's a compliment.
Yeah, well, that's great, man, and thank you so much for your support of our show too. We greatly appreciate it. And well, guys, let's Pete and Elliot, what do you got for us here? And I guess you guys are going to kind of leapfrog through some questions here.
Yeah.
Are there any math questions?
There might be.
Damn.
We
Okay.
might have something to do with trig, maybe a little geometry for you. So
Launch angles, exit
yeah,
velocity, all that good stuff that I love to hear about. All right.
We're gonna throw some at you. If you sign X player and Y player at Z average annual values, please calculate the luxury tax implications within 5 decimal places.
along with prestige value.
That's right. Yes,
That's right.
Okay.
Bow tie or no bow tie?
Well,
Sweater or no sweater? Coffee in right hand or left hand?
there you go. Bow ties are cool. All right.
All right. Oh, they are not. All right, let's go.
Put the slow market aside for a moment. Would you guys say you're satisfied with what the Cards have done in the offseason so far?
Chris, go ahead. I'll let you start.
Satisfied. Content, maybe, barely. I like the Ozuna acquisition. As far as that's really about the only thing to get too excited about. I do think that getting some of the guys like Leon, I mean, that helps, but I didn't get too ecstatic over the Gregerson. Mikolas was kind of but I would say I'm content, but I'm not ecstatic. I think the Cardinals are probably another move away from really making a big impact.
Yeah, I'd say I'd have to, for the most part, I agree with what you just said, at least your assessment. I've went from pretty disappointed to a little more towards content when they acquired Leon from Toronto. I too was very excited. They badly needed somebody in the middle of the order, and so I'm really glad they got Ozuna. I still feel that they're probably going to end up wanting some more help in the offense. I don't know who's going to protect Ozuna. I'm not sure who Ozuna is going to be protecting in the lineup, because I'm not quite certain how that lineup's going to shake out, at least at this point. We hear of perhaps Carpenter moving back to the 3 spot, but we know how good he is at leadoff. So offense, I think I'm okay where they're at. I'm really worried about just the pitching all around. I know they have a lot of options that they can plug in the starting rotation, but I think the bullpen's what I'm most disappointed over. I mean, how bad was the bullpen last year? How many leads were blown in late innings? I would have loved to have seen them address that a little bit more with maybe a more sure thing at the end of the game. But it sounds like Gregerson's going to get the first shot. So I'm okay. Given the way this market's gone, not a lot happening, I'd say that they've probably done about everything they could up to this point.
Okay. Well, expanding kind of on that, the Cards have been rumored to be in on Greg Holland for some time. Is that the move you would like to see them make, or do you have confidence in Gregerson as your closer?
I personally have a whole lot of faith in Gregerson as a closer. I think he'd be better as maybe a setup 7th inning guy. Holland, I don't know for what he's going to be asking for. I know Mozeliak wants to go a different route, and I can't say that I blame him on wanting to spend $20 million or something on a guy, even though he's proven. You've got guys that are throwing 100 mile an hour in the minors. You've got Tuivalala and some other guys that haven't really had a shot. It's one of those things that Cardinals fans aren't too patient. So to throw guys out there like that don't have the sexy name or the background necessarily, I don't know, Cardinal fans, like I said, they're not very patient. So Holland would probably silence some of them, but I don't think he's the solvent.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. The addition of Luke Gregerson, I thought, was a pretty decent bullpen add for some depth, and I agree too that that's probably a 6th through 8th inning guy if you need him. But Greg Holland, so just looking at him, he's still only 1 full season removed from Tommy John. So you got to wonder, how's what's going on there with the elbow? Is it going to hold up? Is he asking for 4+ years, 5+ years, and how is that elbow going to hold up? So that's what kind of makes you worry about that a little bit. Also, I don't know. You would think that his road splits outside of Colorado would have been a whole lot, but you'd feel a lot better about that if you looked at the away games when he played for the Rockies, and if those, the ERA and everything else was a lot better on the road, but it really wasn't if you look at it. So I think for the money, I would have to agree. I think Mozeliak and the Cardinals would have rather went the trade route for a closer. I just don't think they could get a deal done. And I would. We've seen this happen before, right, Chris? If you think back to Jason Mott stepped in and finished out 2011 for him. Trevor Rosenthal was in their system as a starter. Maybe they always saw him as a closer, but he was a starter for a very long time, and he stepped in and had a couple of years where he had a pretty good run. I think they're betting on it again. I don't know how many times they can go to that well, but they do have some arms. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, so then let's say, and this very well may be true given how close we are to the beginning of spring training. If you had only one more move to make, what is that move?
If I had to make one move, let's see. I don't know that I'm sold on Jed Jerko at third base for the season, and I know that Matt Carpenter is going to be flexible this season. He can play first or third. We are kind of lacking a left-handed bat. I hate to throw a lot of money at Mike Moustakas, but I might take a flyer on him. A left-handed bat, I think, was the pop. It would help the lineup. I know that's not a starting pitcher or a bullpen, but I think he'd be a good addition for the Cardinals.
What was that name again, Chris? You broke up there just a little bit. Who was the name of the player?
Oh,
Mike Moustakas. Okay. Yeah, left-handed bat with some pop. Yeah, sure. That name has kind of been in my mind too. I think that I'd love to see this, right? So this is Ron's fantasy world here. I would yeah, watch out. I would love for Toronto to come to their senses and actually consider dealing Donaldson, because that's the guy. I realize they could get a little right-handed heavy in the lineup with his addition, but that's a guy I wanted to see in a Cardinal uniform for well over a year now, Pete. I think we started this podcast, I was talking about Josh Donaldson being a possibility. So if I could make one move, I'd make that one. What you got next, boys?
Sounds good. So into spring training, who's going to be the surprise? Is there going to be a surprise coming out of spring training?
Who's going to surprise the spring training? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Well, spring training, I think it's hard to get a read on what guys are going to do there because it's such a crapshoot on, especially the exhibition games. But heading into the season, I think Reyes is going to be the guy that coming back from Tommy John. There's a lot of hype on him. Is he going to be coming out of the bullpen? Is he going to go back to being a starter? I expect big things out of Reyes this season. You
think he'll be ready during spring training?
Not during spring training, but I think that coming out of it, I just expect more out of him, I think, than anybody else on the team. Weaver would be another one.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like when I think Weaver, I would assume he's got an inside track to making that starting rotation. I feel like he should. So who I think will surprise in spring training? There's like 3 arms that they have down in the minor leagues that are higher prospects for them. You have Jordan Hicks. I can't remember the kid's first name. It's Helsey, I think is his name. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then there's Dakota Hudson. So those are 3 hard throwers they have. And given their needs in the bullpen, I think that they're pretty good candidates for surprising, perhaps in spring training. I don't know if they're willing to rush those guys up, but I think if the need presents itself, or there's an injury, or somebody goes down, or somebody they gambled on, just they don't feel like it's going to come through at the end of spring training, I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these guys. Now, if you flip it over to the offensive side, there's a couple guys there I think may help them. It could be somebody like Patrick Wisdom might finally get a shot, or Adolis Garcia. I know he's an outfielder, but there's still, who is that fourth outfielder? Is it Jose Martinez exclusively? I don't know if Voigt plays any outfield or not, but I'm kind of thinking one of those names may come up as a surprise. Now, I would lean towards the pitchers since that's where their need is, I believe, in the bullpen.
All right.
Yeah.
So then let's.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I think those guys, Ryan Helsley and Jordan Hicks, I think you'll see both of them during the season come up and be battling it out for the closer position. I think Mozeliak's kind of talked about that on a couple things of saying that young arms, and those are the two names that he's brought up. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them. I don't know that coming out of spring training they'll make the team, but I would definitely keep my eye out for both.
All right. So then, which player do you guys think needs to show the most in spring training? Like, who has the most to prove, and also who's on the bubble?
It's hard to say on who's got the most to prove in spring training. I'd say somebody like a Luke Voigt that really he come up last year and he did pretty good for the Cardinals, and with Carpenter and Jose Martinez, and I just don't know that he has a spot right now. But if he comes out in spring training and he's on fire, I have heard that he's kind of practiced a little bit in the outfield. I just hope that doesn't turn into a Matt Adams experiment.
Right. That was scary, right? I mean, how clinched up were you when anything traveled towards the left field at all? I know I got nervous.
Yeah,
he played any games
for a while. When he played Colton Wong as a center fielder too, and I just shook my head.
Yeah, that didn't go too well. I think somebody made a Cardinals logo with the silhouette of him. What was it? A face plant in the outfield at Wrigley Field or something? Pete, you're the one who sent it to me. I don't know if you remember that image or not.
No,
I think it's in our Facebook photos.
The image has been. Is that the one where his legs look like the L, and then you can actually put lose in there, and you can do Cardinals lose.
Yes, it was two of those on a bat, and Pete sent me the picture of it. And of course, it was during the Colton Wong center field experiment was when that picture was taken. So which player do I think? Which player needs to prove the most? And I think immediately of just Adam Wainwright, because where he ended up last year throwing in the 80s, right? I feel like, and he may feel the same way, that he has a lot to prove in spring training, that he's back to somewhat of a normal form, and he's probably feeling like he's got to give not only the fan community but everybody else just line of sight that he can get somewhat back to form, the Adam Wainwright that we're used to, because he might, this is his last year, I believe, of his current deal. So I say Adam Wainwright. I don't think he's on the bubble, though. It's hard. He's not a guy that's on the bubble that's risk not going north after spring training. I just think he's got the most to prove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So at the end of the day, spring training, do you care? Do you care about spring training as a Cardinals fan? Do you guys look forward to it? Or if you do, when does it start to wear off for you?
For me, I know, it's kind of like finally getting your baseball fix. I mean, spring training, it's great because you're finally getting to see baseball again. You're getting to see the guys and the birds on the bat. So, I mean, all that's great, but it's short-lived on, I know you guys talked about it on you guys' Cubs episode where, a month of spring training games, you don't really need that. And I think you kind of lose some fan, I don't know, interest, I guess you could say. But it is nice to see some of these guys that you don't typically see with the team. And, like I said, going and finally getting to see some baseball, that's about the excitement of it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not a preseason fan of anything, whether it's football or and definitely not baseball. I mean, March is this. The first quarter of any calendar year is brutal for baseball. I mean, this year isn't as much because we've had a delay, right, in player movement, so that issue's been out there. But my goodness, once we get into March, I'm just waiting for March Madness to end, because I know when it ends, we can finally get back to normal, and baseball's right around the corner. So, I spring training wears on me as soon as we hit March. March is a tough month.
All right, so I'm going to throw this one to Ron first because this one may take a little bit of thinking, Chris. Ron, if this happened during spring training, what about it would surprise you? Like, name one thing. If this happened, you would be like, I never expected that. Okay, maybe Chris should take this one.
That's a good question, though. Okay, I've got it. I'll say this. I've been denying it for a long time. Jake Arrieta randomly shows up in Jupiter, Florida with a flat bill Cardinal hat on. Yeah, I would be surprised.
I'm praying for it.
You're praying for it.
How about you? What would be the big surprise for you during spring training?
I'll go along with the same, except instead of Arrieta, a Lance Lynn return is shock.
I never even considered that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
I like Lynn, and I don't see it. I think the 1 year offer, the qualifying offer, I mean, that was basically to get a draft pick attached to him. It's a shame because that Lance Lynn has been a grinder for this Cardinal team, but it's a business, and you don't pay for necessarily the past, but what you're going to get out of the next 3, 4, or 5 years out of him. And
yeah, he has been one of. I mean, it's been talked about a lot that Lance Lynn probably one of the more underappreciated Cardinals in my recent memory. I mean, even personally, I mean, I even tend to look past him because you were always thinking about the big names in the rotation. But the guy was, with the exception of one injury, one stint on the DL that I can remember him having, he was pretty rock solid. So whatever happens with Lance Lynn, I certainly hope he gets a decent deal. Because this is he could probably get away with signing a 1 year now and maybe go for a little bit more next year. But wherever he lands, I'd like to see him get a nice deal for sure.
Okay. So who do you fear won't go north when spring training wraps? Do you think somebody either is going to have that poor of a spring training? Are you afraid of that, or are you afraid of somebody getting hurt again before the end of spring training?
I sure don't want about any injuries happening, especially to somebody like Paul DeYoung, because we don't have a shortstop. I don't know. I would probably go back to somebody like Luke Voigt or possibly Jose Martinez. He tore the cover off the ball last season, but with Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader, not sure that he's going to be the fourth outfielder. He does play first base, so I think between Luke Voigt and Jose Martinez, I think those two are going to be battling it out quite a bit for a spot.
Yeah, well, the first name is the one you said. That's the one I would fear, and not that I believe this is going to happen, but Paul DeYoung is the one I'm not going to go as far as say I'm skeptical, but we've seen other players have a good rookie campaign. They're very solid, and then next year they fall into that. It's a cliche, but they fall into that sophomore slump. We saw it with Diaz, and he's no longer with the organization. I think we saw it with Piscotty. I know it wasn't his technically it wouldn't have been his second year last year, but he was still a young player, but he regressed. I know he had issues outside the field though. So I have some concerns over DeYoung in his second year, more exposure to the league. The league's going to adjust to him. How does he adjust to that? I would be surprised though if for whatever reason he didn't make the trip north. I don't see that happening, but I can't think of any other names. I mean, I understand you made a good point. It may be a situation where Luke Voigt is just kind of the odd man out to start the year off. Jose Martinez, I can't believe he was actually sent down last year at one point, but he was. He spent a short stint in Memphis, and I don't know what that was baffling. But yeah, he could be the odd man out. But my biggest concern, I think, is how does Paul DeYoung's second year go? Because there needs to be somebody behind Ozuna now, to protect him, and I think he's the guy. Hopefully, he's the guy.
All right, so it's time to get a little aggressive.
Uh-oh.
When does the Yadier Molina era end, and when does the Carson Kelly era begin?
Well, don't ask Yachty because I don't think.
Yeah, that's the worst guy to ask there. He's going to say at the end of my contract, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, right. I don't know, Pete. I would say this. I would think that if it truly is his last, he's going to retire at the end of this deal. I think we'll start seeing kind of a ramp up and ramp down of Carson Kelly playing time and Molina. No, he's a hard guy to keep out, but I mean, he's a competitive guy. It's always been tough for Matheny to keep guys like that want to be in the lineup. It's hard for him to keep them out. I would hope though by his last year that we're seeing a healthy split, whatever that ends up being, 50-50, 60-40, and Kelly can get more and more playing time.
All right. So how many games would you like to see him catch this year then?
North of 40. I'm talking about Carson Kelly. Sorry, north of 40 games. I think is good and good for his development, and at the same time won't stunt his development by sitting too long on the bench.
Cool.
Chris, what do you think about that?
Excellent.
You think there'll be a ramp up, ramp down, or you think Yachty's going to be Yachty? He's going to be maximum Yachty until the end of the deal.
I think this year, Kelly might get probably 25 starts this season. I think the next year is when you'll see a lot more of playing time from Kelly. I think Yachty will, I'm not going to say bow down, let him have it, but I think he'll be more inclined to take a back seat for a little bit. This year, I think Yachty's still Yachty and wants to be out there gaming and grinding. So I just expect probably 25 from Kelly this season.
Well, you know what? I wasn't thinking of something before I answered that, Pete. I don't want to go back and change it, but I think after what Wilson Contreras said, I think Yachty will be maximum Yachty this year. Yeah, absolutely. I know I was thinking about that, but now he's got some motivation now. So not that he didn't have any, but he's got even more now. So Yachty plays good angry. Keep going, Wilson. Hand him the mic. Let's get him on. All right. What else you got?
So let's get into the manager. With all the criticism that he's had the last couple years, do you have confidence in Mike Matheny?
To do what?
To manage a bullpen?
A lineup? A rotation? The walk to the bathroom?
Like I say, I think the running joke, especially with our group, is that Matheny wears a blindfold and throws darts at a dartboard to come up with a lineup. But Mike Maddox, the hire of him, I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off Matheny managing the bullpen. I hope, anyway. And I like Matheny. I just think strategically he's lacking for.
Yeah, and there've been a lot of moves. You hear about it, on talk show radio all the time. I know Bernie Miklasz isn't the biggest Matheny fan, and I listen to his show a lot. I don't know. Yeah, I think you said. I think you said the answer, Chris, and I think the changes to the coaching staff are going to help him out a lot. When you get Okendo back in the mix, you have Mike Maddox now. To your point, and you have a guy like Willie McGee, a well-respected figure in the organization that's going to help him as bench coach. So I think they've surrounded him with guys that can help him. And so this year will be interesting to see how he responds to that. Does he accept that? Does he let a guy like Mike Maddox, who's a veteran coach, does he let them do their job? Does he let them work autonomously? My confidence in Mike Matheny is also the confidence in the staff around him. It really is a question, guys. It comes down to, does he accept advice of his staff, and does he let them do their job? I think it comes down to those two things.
Cool. So kind of a follow-up on that. Do you think Jose Okendo is serious when he says he doesn't want to manage anymore?
I think that's kind of came and went. I think he's probably I don't. From what I heard, he was content with being down, helping the minor leaguers, and I think his day of wanting to be a big league manager. I do think those days are behind him. I think he's content with his role.
Yeah, I would agree too. I think he had a couple. Well, I don't know how long ago. I guess it was during about the same time. He had a couple opportunities. I know that a couple of jobs he at least interviewed for before Tony La Russa retired, and then he also interviewed for the Cardinal job when Mike Matheny was hired. And I'm not sure if he had any more after that or not. I want to say that there was a Marlins opportunity in there at one point too, but I could not remember that right, maybe. But I would agree. It seems that he was content to teach and work with the youth down in Florida at their complex. And I don't know how they convinced him to come back up, but he's there. I know the organization's happy about that, and we are as fans too. So here's okay. So conspiracy theory is they put him in place there because if Matheny does not improve this year, then they have their not just interim, but I think a solution right behind him in Oquendo.
But he said that he doesn't want to. So then the conspiracy would be that they're planning to fire him mid-season so that Oquendo has to take on the job.
Okay, I say I want to do shit all the time, and I never do it. So, it's just the way it goes, man. He just jumped back into a bench coach role. He's probably not going to come out and say, "Yeah, I'd really like to manage instead of do this." So if that spot opened up and they asked him to do it, you're going to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. I think he'd be all over it.
We will see.
Yep.
All right, so we get past spring training, opening day lineup. Who's out there?
Well, lineup, Yachty's catching. Carpenter's going to be at first. Wong at second. DeYoung at short. Jerko at third. Then you've got Fowler, Pham, and Ozuna in the outfield. I don't know what kind of batting lineup Matheny will put out there, but I mean that'll be your starters.
Yeah, I think the only question there, every name you just rattled off, I agree with. This depends on, is Jerko going to be your third baseman that day, or is it going to be Carpenter over there with Martinez? It's either Jerko or Martinez. Interchange them on opening day. So we'll see how their spring goes. I think Jerko gets the first shot at third, though, and it's his to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
So then rotation. Who is it and in what order?
So you've got Carlos Martinez is going to be your one. I hate to say Waka being your two. Guy struggles to get through the order more than twice, but I can't see having Wainwright as your two. I don't think Weaver's proved enough to be a two. So I'd go Martinez one, Waka two, probably Wainwright three just on his veteran status, then Weaver and Nicholas.
I definitely agree. Martinez first. I'm thinking. I have been thinking at least Weaver at two. Waka 3, Wainwright 4, and then the new guy, Miles Mikolas in that 5th spot. But I tell you what, though, to be honest, Chris, that 2 through 5 could be any of those guys. Sure. We'll just have to see how the spring goes. And all I know is Martinez is, unless barring injury, he's going to be the ace of the staff. Now, the thing I'm thinking is, how does Alex Reyes fit into this by May 1st? They said that's his opening day. I would be willing to bet, though, that they're probably going to start him out in the bullpen. I would guess as some help there. I'd be surprised if they plug him into the rotation. If he is in the rotation, I would have to think they would be closer to June or closer to the mid-season mark. So it's interesting to see how does that starting rotation shake up if Reyes is back and in form and ready to go as a starter, because that's where they really want him at the end of the day, I think.
You mean
what color is Martinez's hair this
starting
year?
rotation?
What was that? Elliot, you asked something, I didn't hear you.
I said, what color is Martinez's hair this year?
Oh, Jesus.
Is he going to go pink?
I'm thinking definitely red for opening day, right? I mean, got to show team pride.
Put together a dozen consistent starts and color it whatever you want, but I'd start the year off with your natural color there, my friend.
Does he have a natural color anymore?
I forgot what it was. Not sure. I'm not sure. All right.
Not that we want this to happen, but
I do.
Who's the first injury of the year?
First injury of the year?
Who's the first one to go on the DL? Or who do you fear it may be?
God, I would fear that a big injury, the first one, I don't want to see it. It would be Alex Reyes to get hurt again. That's my biggest fear.
I think an easy answer would be Wainwright, but I'm going to say Mr. 30-30.
Yeah.
He's hyping the stuff now, and I like the guy, and I like the hustle, but the guy's had 1 year. He's talking a lot of hype. I would just I'd hate to see it, but.
So what's been his big injury history? It's been, I know it's had a lot to do with his eyesight, and I don't recall if in his recent injury history if it's been anything else. I know his eyes were definitely a problem. What else am I not thinking of that he was?
Leg issue.
Yeah, I know there's been other things. I just can't remember exactly what those were. I know the eyesight is what everybody brings up, which is a weird one, right? Usually hear about guys' shoulders or back, but rarely hear about eyesight. So that one's just a little strange.
Yeah.
What else, guys? I think I know which one's coming next. You're on mute, Pete. Anybody lip read?
There we go.
There we go. All right.
There we go.
Software mute, not hardware mute. All right.
I got it.
If the injury occurred to this player, who would you shit yourself?
Oh.
Well, you had hit on it that Reyes, that would really that would deflate a lot of Cardinal fans, but not having him the entire season already, I don't know that would be the biggest one.
Right.
Probably somebody like Yachty or Matt Carpenter. If one of those guys go down, you're totally deflated.
Mm-hmm. I would, for me, because they only have him a guaranteed 2 years. A guy I would fear to lose it would be Ozuna to go down to an injury. That one would be really disappointing. Because that's been one of their biggest needs. That's one of the first things they addressed this offseason. They knew they needed it. If he were to go down in injury, that would really suck. Really, really suck.
Okay, so barring putting all this together with your rotation, Mike Maddox making the pitching changes for Matheny not doing too many boneheaded things. What's your record at All-Star break?
Oh,
I might go 5.
5 over?
500.
Like you said, 5. Did you say 500, Chris?
5 over, yeah.
Okay, 5 over. That's exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I had. I had 43 wins at the break, and I think they'll be in pretty good shape if they're there. Better than last year. Better than both of our teams last year, guys. What was it, 43 and 45?
Yep, that was us.
Yeah,
that was at the All-Star break, not exactly the mid-year, but the All-Star break.
Yep, that was the episode title.
43 and 45. That was a good one because we were both depressed.
All right, so is there, in your opinion, is there a make-or-break aspect of the Cardinals roster that could cause a breakdown and put the entire season in jeopardy?
Like Ron said, anything that would have Ozuna out of the lineup, I think that's basically your last year's Cardinals team without Piscotty, Grichuk.
Right.
So, I just can't imagine Ozuna. That'd be a free fall.
Yeah, you could certainly make a case that the starting the pitching staff has some big question marks. Certainly the bullpen, but I agree with you, Chris, that with that offense being as inconsistent as they were last year, not having that presence in the middle of the order, I think it puts stress on all other facets of their game. And so, yeah, I agree. I think if the offense fails to click and they don't improve over last year, they're in trouble. Big trouble.
You could say the same for Carlos Martinez too. I mean, if that guy goes down, bad.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, the Cardinals just don't have the depth, right, that we're used to. So it's you almost look at this and go, man, this is pretty fragile when you think about it, right? There's a couple of key guys that if anything happens to them, they're going to be searching for some answers, and they don't have. Perhaps Ozuna, they've got some young guys down there, but they're not going to step right up and produce like that guy does. So that would be a huge bummer. And there's no ace to step up and cover 80% of what Martinez is capable of giving you. So yeah, either of those guys really. Jeez.
So Cards are 5 games over at All-Star break. They're in it. They're going to make a move at midseason. What do you think that move will be? What are they going to address at midseason?
Well, they've made quite a few moves with Toronto already. Maybe that's to butter them up for a Donaldson deal. That'd be probably something I'd keep. It also depends on what they get out of Jerko for the season. I mean, if he's holding down third base, they probably won't go that direction. But if he has a lackluster year, or if Carpenter doesn't fit third base like he used to, I could see him making a play to get Donaldson.
Yeah, I think I could too, Chris. I mean, I'm guilty of. I've been wanting to see this guy in a Cardinal uniform, but I think some dominoes will have to fall. I think it's not only is Jerko not playing well, but Carpenter just can't play third anymore if that's the case. Or if, think about it, if he just can't bat anywhere but lead off, who's going to step in and bat third or fourth if Ozuna's moved up? So I think there's a couple things that will happen there that would cause something like that to occur. So it depends on those two guys. It comes down to Jerko and Carpenter. If they can't get it done, I think they will make a move for a third baseman. Maybe Moustakas will still be unsigned. Maybe he'll be sitting out with JD Martinez and waiting for the market to waiting for a team to step in again and give him $25 million a year. I don't know.
Are they going to be still at Scott Boras camp in the middle of the year?
He's not. Man, we should. It's a shame. We've been doing. I love doing these focuses on our teams, but my goodness, man, that's a whole episode covering that saga, isn't it?
Actually, maybe that should be. We'll just do an episode covering Boris's off season.
Breaking
Scott's
down
greatest hits.
Yeah, Scott's greatest hits. Oh, I love it, man. Prestige value, property taxes. What else? I mean, there's been some. He's had to get more creative this year, and I think what we're witnessing is a super agent losing his mind. I think.
He wants to get paid.
Right. This non-competitive cancer. We need to cut it out right now.
And the non-competitive cancer is his checkbook.
Evidently.
All right. So this kind of ties into the previous question.
Yeah.
Who will be the Cardinals' third baseman on August 1st?
I'll go with Jerko. I think he'll do all right. I don't know if he'll have a great season, but I think he'll do enough to maintain the position, or at least I hope he does.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think in reality that's probably going to happen. So I think who we see at third base is Jerko 70% of the time, the other 30% perhaps, Greg Garcia or Matt Carpenter. So
you don't think they're able to pull the trigger and bring in somebody like Donaldson?
Well, I'd love to see that happen, but I think what they're going to do is wait and see approach with how the lineup functions with Carpenter perhaps batting third again. Fowler moving back to leadoff if Carpenter cannot bat third and he has to move up to the leadoff spot. Is Fowler going to be able to step in and produce like he did last year in the 3-hole? I don't know. I just don't see that happening. Is Pham your 3-hitter? Has he ever really had to do that before? I like Pham in the 2 spot. I like Pham or Fowler in the 2 spot. So are they going to need that number 3 hitter in the lineup. I think it comes down to Carpenter. So, but I do think Jerko will be he'll still be the Cardinals' third baseman in August.
All right. So if you make no other moves, who do you want at the trade deadline?
Well, who do I want at the trade deadline? I want Chris Bryant because we have a third base. I think the Cubs should just do a teardown now. Wasn't that more fun, guys? I mean, I think they should just blow it up. Start all over. It's fun building a new Lego set.
100-year teardown.
Yeah, tear it down.
Tell you what, we'll give old Charles the cat there a call and see what he thinks of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd look forward to
How about
that
you,
conversation.
Chris? Who would you like to see the Cardinals bring in at the trade deadline?
It wouldn't hurt my feelings if the Cardinals made a play to get Chris Archer from Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
an
more
angle for a line.
more realistic than my suggestion, I think. I don't see the Cubs letting go of Chris Bryant anytime soon, unless the Cardinals. What did we say last episode, guys? Like they'd have to give him all of Memphis.
Pretty
Give the Cubs
much.
all of Memphis. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All
So, which 40-man roster player do you think will not be with the Cardinals by August, either by trade, release? What do you think?
I'll go with Greg Garcia. I think there's some guys in the minors that could come up and do what he does for the team. And, he's another guy that fans, they kind of cling to your Daniel Descalzos and, guys that they know grind hard and have been Cardinals. And so, I mean, there's an attachment to Greg Garcia, but I think that you finally see them part ways.
Yeah, a name I'm wondering about is Tyler O'Neill, and I know that some Cardinal fans would be like, "Hey, what the hell are you talking about?" That guy's interesting. So they got him in the it was the Marco Gonzalez trade. I was initially going to say Mike Leake, but it was Marco Gonzalez trade where they got Tyler O'Neill. So big, strong guy, has a lot of pop, also swings and misses a lot. And I think they just had a guy like him, like Randall Grichuk, that they just dealt. So I've got a suspicion that if they have to go desperately in on some bullpen help, or perhaps even a trade for a guy like Chris Archer, that with their surplus of outfielders they have, it could pluck from one of those guys. And if you think about their system, they've got Adolis Garcia too, who's a really, he's right. So far, he's been a pretty fast moving prospect. So they have other outfielders. So I don't know. That's my logic, but I think something tells me that you're going to see a name like that probably be traded off the 40-man to get some help, either bullpen or perhaps even a starter. But Garcia, Garcia reminds me of other great Cardinals like a Joe McEwing or Bo Hart, the guys you were talking about, those grinders that didn't get a ton of playing time, but the fans sure appreciated the effort they put in. So he does remind me of those guys.
All right. So, as Cardinals fans, do the Brewers scare you guys? with all the moves that they make?
No. No. That wasn't a cackling hyena like mine. That was just a chuckling. No. They don't. They don't. I tell you what, it would if they sign a top line pitcher, I'll start to pay more attention to them. But no, the Brewers don't scare me right now.
Does it scare you that you won't be able to purchase a ticket from them because you don't live?
I don't live in Wisconsin. No, it doesn't, because Elliot lives in Wisconsin, so you can hook me up there, right?
That's right. No, they only did that to cut to the Cubs games.
Right.
right, because it's it is. Pete, you and I have been to a game up there. It was what is it? 2001.
Disaster.
It was a disaster for multiple reasons, but there were definitely louder cheers for the Cubs players than there were for the Brewers at that time, and it was 2001.
Yeah.
So they actually, when you pull into parking, they have $15 general parking Monday through Thursday, $20 general parking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Cubs.
And Cubs, it's just $20 if you got a Cub sticker or a jersey or a hat or anything. So you're better. That's a good idea. I don't think $5 is going to stop Cub fans from showing up at Brewers games.
No.
No, definitely not.
Just more carpooling, maybe.
All right, fellas, it's time to turn this one inward.
Okay.
If you could light up one group of Cardinals fans, what would you say? Come on, Ron. You got a lot to live up to.
Yeah. Well, no. The next one's where I got a lot to live up to, right? My own fit. So there's a certain group, and it's actually, I don't even know if I really want to light them up as much as I just want to show them how silly they get. And it is a Cards Talk forum on the stltoday.com. Of course, like anything else, guys, we're talking probably like 10% of the people there. The rest of them are totally they're like us. They're pretty level headed, but you always have your 10% there that are just, they go off the trolley once or twice a week. It's funny though to watch a topic get posted, an innocent topic. They just, whether it's a trade proposal, something, and just watch the whole group deteriorate around it, where it just it's a contest. It's a contest of guys looking at a post and seeing, well, how can I make that guy sound like a dumbass and me sound smarter? Or how can I call them out? How can I call them out for bringing up a topic that, don't you know, we already had this topic last week? Like, dude, I'm not going to look through 70 topics to make sure I'm not reposting something or, treading on the same ground over and over again. But it is, I used to go there because it was basically my Twitter before I got the courage to even go on Twitter. I would go on Cardstock because news would break there quickly and you could get it. And so I used to go there all the time. Once in a while, I still jump into it because once in a while people will put a link or something. But I don't have to go there anymore, thanks to your group, Chris, because that's actually faster than Twitter. I think I've actually learned about more up-to-date things just in notifications on the Facebook group than I ever had from Cardstock. But yeah, if I could show one set of fans how silly they get, it's like jumping into a pool of piranha. If you dare go in there with an idea or a suggestion, you just see bubbles go around you and you're just kicking for your life and there's blood in the water and it's ugly. Cardstock.
How about you, Chris? Who would you light up?
Probably anything to do with Mike Matheny gets our group going crazy. You've got half the people wanting him fired. You got the other half that thinks, hey, this guy's Hall of Fame manager. It's like there's no middle ground. There's no in between with this guy. People are just, I don't know, spoiled fans. I'll admit, we're all kind of spoiled to the extent that it shouldn't be World Series or bust, but at the same time, he might get us to the playoffs. But once we get there, the guy just doesn't put us in a position to succeed. And so any kind of topic with Matheny, I think, sets any group on fire.
That's funny. Yeah, that's funny because it did on that forum all the time too. Like, yeah, it's like reading. It's like bipolar from topic to topic. You're like, Matheny's great. Matheny sucks. It's just like, it's pretty nuts. I think I know what the last question is, guys.
Almost.
Yeah.
Oh, you got another one to throw in there. All right.
Yeah, this is, if you could rip a Cubs fan, what would you say?
Oh, I've got to start this one off. All right, because I've got it. I'm thinking about this. I'm not going to do what Pete did because I don't want to plagiarize. Well, I'd say to that Cubs fan, and we know the ones we're talking about, right? Not all Cubs fans. We're talking to the 10%.
This is not all Cubs fans. This is
it's
the idiots.
It's all the idiots, right? So the Cubs will go, okay, so not 10%. We'll go with 12%. So 12% of Cubs fans. Here's what I'm saying to you: 4 years ago, you couldn't name 7 players on the roster. You spent no money on any Cubs apparel or merchandise. You never had one post about how much you love your Cubs on social media. And now you hashtag everything, hashtag that's Cub, as though you've lived that way your whole life. You're the kind of person that goes out and buys a karaoke machine because American Idol is popular. So you're a poser. Go to your trough-style bathroom stalls and do your, beer slaloming or whatever the hell, or urinal slaloming they do at Wrigley Field. Those guys out in left field bleachers. I got beer cups thrown at me once out there, Chris. You know that? I got called a hillbilly. because I had a Cardinal shirt on.
Now, hang on.
They're brutal in Chicago, man.
And what did you do to prompt this?
I pissed them off.
How exactly? I don't know that Chris is. You need to bring Chris completely up to date.
Up to context. Okay. Well, I lost a bet and I ended up having.
Now's a really good time to tell this story again because we got a lot of new listeners.
All right, so I lost a bet and I had to wear a Cubs jersey to you. I lost a bet to Pete. And I had to wear a Cubs jersey to a Cubs game where they were playing the Cardinals, and so the Cubs were on top. I think Sosa even homered, and who
was the center fielder that day?
Oh, I was so pissed. I was so looking forward. I was looking forward to. Now I had nothing against Kerry Robinson, but I wanted to see Jim Edmonds. He was one of my favorite players of that era, and Kerry Robinson's the center field, and I just lost my mind. I'm like, not only am I wearing this shitty, ugly jersey out here in the outfield, but I can't watch my favorite player in center field. We were in left center, man. So, but anyway, so they go up. So I'm high-fiving people and pretending, gritting my teeth. And finally, I look at what was it, 7th inning or whatever?
Yeah.
And I said, Pete, can I take this damn thing off? And you gave me permission to take it off. Thank you. And I had a Cardinal skin-tight sleeveless Cardinal shirt on under it and just lit up the crowd out there. I mean, yeah, it was. Maybe I was a little boisterous too when I pulled that Cubs jersey off. So I'm pretty sure I ripped it off and the buttons went flying.
Yeah, you didn't pull it off. You tore that thing in half.
I was asking for it, but the beer cup hit me on the back of the neck and go back down there, you hillbilly, or something like that. And then there was some guy told me I better think about it on the way out. That was probably the quote of the trip. When some guy looked at me in the eye, he's like, "You better think about it." I'm like, "Uh-oh, all right." And unfortunately, I had to make the long walk back to the car with the skin tight sleeveless Cardinal shirt on that I probably had when I was 14, and it didn't fit anymore. But why not wear it when you're 24, 25 years old? You look awesome, man. Wasn't one of my
How about
wiser
you, Chris? What Cubs fans would you light up?
I think I would just say Jason Hayward and you're welcome.
Yeah. That's great.
Hats off to you, my good man.
All right. Yeah. I love it for its simplicity. That was the best.
Absolutely. All right. Last question. And this one may go into the nostalgia. So if you could sit and watch a game with one Cardinals player, living or dead, who would it be?
I'm partial, even though I didn't get a chance to see this guy play. Stan Musial, hands down, would be the guy for me.
That would be, yeah. I was thinking about this too, and he definitely on my list. But I think one that I would love to sit down and watch a game with and hear just what he has to say. He's still with us, and that would be Bob Gibson. That'd be a great one to hear him talk about the season where he had a ridiculously low ERA, like in the ones and 112, and to hear about his 20 strikeouts, I think, in a World Series game, or is it 19 strikeouts? Now I don't remember the number, but I mean, I would love to sit down and hear what he had to say, and I'd love to see how he hear some of the things he used to say to come on guys, Tim McCarver, the catcher, when he would come out to talk to him on the mound. Those are great stories. So I'd love to watch a game with him.
Very good. That's all we got planned.
So what do we have? What do we have unplanned?
I don't know, Elliot. You got anything? Any burning questions?
He's probably thrilled to not have to talk about
those fans.
Yeah, probably glad it's over.
Well, no. I was interested to see what you guys thought, and what is your excitement level this year for baseball? Are you excited, or are you just kind of mad because there's so many questions about this year? Because I know going in the last couple of years, because of the way that the Cubs have gone, I mean, it's exciting because this is a feeling that's still kind of new as for a Cubs fan, is going into a season expecting the team to be good and expecting to go back to the playoffs. And I know it's been a little rough ride the last couple of years for Cardinals fans. So going into this year, are you tempered expectations, or are you excited and looking forward to the way that your team may, play this year?
I'm excited every season for Cardinal baseball, and I think the fact that the Cubs, and I'll go ahead and add the Brewers too. I mean, our division is tough with the exception of the Reds and the Pirates. But that three-headed monster, I mean, that's going to be all season long. I think they're going to beat up on each other. I think it makes for, good. It's just good baseball, and it makes me appreciate it more. And I'm more into games where there's something on the line, and it seems like when the Cubs and the Cardinals play, and like I said, throw the Brewers in the mix this season, it's meaningful baseball. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's well said. Some of my favorite years, the ones I remember the most, quite honestly, are the years when the Cubs and the Cardinals have been, in the race or near in the race or competitive. Of course, they're always competitive, right? But they're, some years are just different than others. So I remember, years like 2001, 2003, even 2004. Those were fun to watch because we were both in it. Quite honestly, you think back to 2006, the Cardinals weren't that great that year. I mean, I know we got a championship out of it. We'll take it all day long, but it was an 83-win team. But that was an off year for the Cubs, right? I mean, they weren't as competitive. And so that year, 2006, I couldn't
define off year.
I can't remember what they didn't. I don't think off decade, right? Well, maybe. But some of my favorite years are when these guys are in it and it's more competitive. So I agree, Chris. I'm excited too. I know we have a lot of distraction right now because of what's going on in baseball. There with the the friction between ownership and the players union and Major League Baseball. I have a feeling this stuff will work itself out. I think the real caution is going to come in a couple of years, right? When this agreement's going to be up. That'll be
2021.
That time I'll be a little more frightened. Are we going to have a work stoppage, etc.? Boy, I sure hope not.
I agree. That would be really, really frustrating.
What would we do?
So many years.
What would we do if there was a work stoppage? My God. Especially like in '94.
I don't know.
Like if they did it mid-season.
There was a lot of really upset about the work stoppage in the 90s. And actually, I mean, I've talked to some people who are just like, I haven't gone back to baseball because of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did the same thing with hockey. I mean, and I love the Blues. Now, hockey was my second sport as a fan that I followed, not nearly as much as baseball. But once that year hockey went, they had a work stoppage, but I've never been back. And so I think that's what baseball has to risk. Said that on a couple shows ago, right? That's what they're risking. They're risking losing some of these fans where they're not. Baseball is not their first choice.
Right.
So I'd hate to see that happen.
Yeah, I got a question
All right, guys.
for you.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
All right. Touching on that, if baseball does go on a strike, the last time it happened, and we had somebody like a Cal Ripken, you had the home run chase to bring fans back. Is there a player out there now that would bring fans back?
But that's a great question. How long did it take, too, guys? I mean, you think about it, right? They went on strike in '94.
It took 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that it was 3 years because it took the home run race, but when was attendance numbers and revenue and all that stuff healthy again? I mean, you could argue that it took a little longer than that, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not an overnight thing, and what's the next thing that pulls people back in? And it's frightening when you think about it. I would hate to see that happen. So I don't know what that next thing would be. I really don't. I mean, what sucked about '94 too is like that the Expos were really good that year, and they had all those players.
Yeah,
and that's just a bummer, right?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that there's we're talking 3 years from now. So who knows who's no longer playing? Who knows who is coming up and is set to be the next big star, right? Who is going to be that person who brings them back? And as we saw in the home run race, it may be that it's going to take more than just one player. That it's going to take multiple players, either competing for records or else just huge personalities on their teams.
Yeah.
And it's going to,
I wouldn't mind.
It's going to have to be multiple teams.
Hey, will Palmeiro,
Like-
will Rafael Palmeiro still be on his comeback trail in 3 years? Just curious. What do you guys think? Over under. Is it over already?
That's why we have to. That's why we have to pray against the strike, because that could derail him. He may be just getting just about to get called up, and they're going to go on strike. He's going to miss his window of opportunity.
Biggest risk to the work stoppage. Palmeiro's comeback gets shortened.
Hey, I'd be okay with Chris Bryant and Bryce Harper competing for that 400 batting average while they're on the same team.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but is that gonna? I absolutely get what you're saying there, but is that going to be enough because they're on the same team? Is that going to, especially at that point when the Cubs are the equivalent of the Yankees because they've now won 4 World Series in 6 years.
Oh, for the love of God!
And they're also carrying the biggest payroll in baseball, and everybody hates them, not just Cardinals fans. Is anybody going to want to watch the two of them chase 400?
Chris, let me lay this scenario out. No, nobody's going to care at that point. Chris, if the Cubs, if this Bryce Harper thing that they've been telegraphing for the last several months, if this were to happen, if Harper ends up in a Cubs uniform, I almost threw up when I said that, in my mouth. But if Harper shows up in a Cubs uniform next spring, and they say they do pull off a Darvish signing this spring, will they be the most hated team in baseball?
I know they would in St. Louis.
Missouri, that's for sure. Southern Illinois, Missouri, most hated team.
Right. I mean, you would probably get a good majority of fans that would, they would be the National League Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings up an interesting possibility. Who's more hated at the end of free agency next year? The Cubs with Bryce Harper or the Yankees with Manny Machado?
For me, it's the Cubs. It's the Cubs before any of that happens. No, I don't know. It's always going to be the Yankees, right? Universally, they're always going to be the most hated team. If they they get Stanton this year, then they get Machado. They're absolutely geographically spread out. Yankees are going to be the most hated.
Their lineup's gonna have 200 home runs between 4 of them.
Four players, yeah. That'll be fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think unless you guys have any more burning questions, I think we've done our show tonight.
I do have a burning question.
Yes.
Burns when I see what should I do about that?
I would. Is there a Minute Clinic around the corner? Because I just probably walk down there. Check that out.
You said burning questions. So
Okay.
I think we're done.
I think we're done. Pete, tell everybody where they can find us again, please.
Well, obviously, as always, on the social medias, Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast, and Facebook, you can just search for Team of Rivals Podcast and land on our page. But the one-stop shop for everything is teamofrivalspodcast.com. You can also drop us a line at any time by sending us an email at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. And then this already because you're either watching or listening to us. You can subscribe on YouTube, or you can follow, share, rate, review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, or Spotify. And if you'd like to get in touch with our good man, Elliot, you can always do so on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot, ELLIOTT.
Outstanding.
Yes. All right, guys, and Chris, we want to thank you again for joining us. It's been great having you on. We've been looking forward to it now for several weeks, and you can find Chris on Cardinals Nation 24/7, Cardinals Nation Facebook group. Chris, where else can they find you besides those two places? Or is that the best? Is that the best way to get hold of Chris Lollis?
Yeah, on the Facebook Cardinals Nation 24/7 page. You go to Facebook groups, Cardinals Nation. That's the one we've got 18,000 members. I get Twitter. It's at Cardinals Nation 247. I don't really tweet a lot, but that's where I get a lot of information to put on Facebook. So those are the 3 places to find me at.
All right, awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, everybody enjoy your weekend. Hopefully the weather lets up north there, and the rain will stop down here because we're going to get some more rain. But everybody have a great weekend. Chris, again, thanks for joining us. Guys, we'll be doing this again next week. right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Spring
Talk to you guys later.
training.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.